All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Today's class, we're going to be talking about basically what happened after World War One. Yeah, the war ends, things like that. The treaties are signed, but you're going to see something that specifically between France and Germany. Now, I give this example all the time in class. If you've ever seen the show Family Guy, when Brian Doug owes Stewie the baby some money, Stewie basically slaps around Brian until he gets his money. Um, that's basically what France does, and you're going to see what happens and what does Germany do to try to get out of debt, which is a really stupid thing. It's one of those things people think, oh, well, every country should do this. If you were owe money, this is what you should do, and it's honestly the worst idea you could think of. So let's go ahead and get started and find out what that is. So the objective today, we're going to analyze the significance of dismantling of Austria-Hungary and Germany, because that was one of the agreements in the Treaty of Versailles that, hey, Austria-Hungary was big, now they're tiny. Okay, we're going to examine the significance of Germany's money being worthless. Yeah, you're going to find out about that. And then we're going to create an argument on whether the Dawes Plan will work or not. And you're going to find out what the Dawes Plan is later on. So here's your warm-up picture. Now the first question asks you to analyze the picture and tell me what's going on here. All right, now it might be a little bit hard for you to see, especially if you're watching on your phone. But the guy you see there in the middle, on his chest, it says Germany. And on the little board that he's on, it says peace discussions. So the first question asks you to analyze this picture and tell me what's going on here. The second question asks you to look at this guy's body language, you know, and tell me what do you think this artist is trying to say about Germany and the Allies? Okay, so using that guy's body language, even look at his toes. Um, that should be a big hint. What's going on here? You know, tell me what this artist is trying to say about Germany and the Allies. Okay, so pause the video, write your response, because we're moving on in three, two, one. Now, from the last lesson, we talked about basically the war ends and or was about to end, and Woodrow Wilson, he knew that if a peace settlement was set, that it would not be fair to some countries, and that might cause those countries who are getting the bad end of the deal and might make them pretty upset. So what he suggested were those 14 points, which we talked about last class. Um, and it's basically the League of Nations. The last point was his baby, basically saying, hey, if one country is attacked, like Britain, France, Belgium, you know, Italy, then those other countries would help them out, including the U.S. A lot of Europeans like this, um, but the American people didn't, because as you can see from this picture, that's how some Americans saw it. That if we sign this agreement and join the League of Nations, if England gets in trouble, we would be bound by our word and legal documents saying that we would have to help out, send troops and things like that. And a lot of American people are like, why? Why should we get involved with what happens in Europe? That has nothing to do with us. You know, that's across the ocean. If they get in trouble or if those other countries want to fight each other, let them do that. Keep us out of this. So again, the American people didn't want it. So the American people basically told their senators, you better not vote on it. And the U.S. Senate decided not to approve it. Okay, now again, because you guys are sophomores, you probably don't know this, but you will later on when you get to take U.S. history and government. But the president is not all powerful. Okay, the president can start a war, they can start treaties, but in order for things to actually go to move, Congress has to approve it. Congress has to approve a declaration of war that the president gives. and the Congress has to approve treaties. Okay, so the president can't just do whatever he wants in that respect. He has to have Congress's approval. And in this case, the Senate said no, we are not. We're not going with that. So the U.S. did not join the League of Nations, and since the League was pretty weak, you know, Britain, France, Russia, Italy, they joined, but the problem was those countries were hurting. They just got finished with World War One. Their cities are crumbled, destroyed. A lot of their soldiers are either dead, hurt, or like, shell shocked from the war. That no one had the strength to deal with things. So basically, they agreed they would not use force against aggression. So if one country started something with another country, they said, you know what, we're not gonna, hey, you better stop that. We're gonna send soldiers. No, they're more like, let's talk about this. Let's try to figure the problem out and see if we can come to a peaceful solution. Okay, this is gonna bite them in the butt later on, but for right now, at the right after the World War One, it seems like the best option. All right, so your next question asks you to write down 3 new countries that were created from World War One. Okay, so if you look to the picture on the left, you see Germany, Austria, Hungary, Russia. Look at that area specifically. And now look at those areas on the picture to the right. And you'll see new countries formed. That's again because the picture on the left, that is from World War One. That's how it looked like. Then after World War One, because the treaties were signed and the losing countries, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, they had to give up land. So new countries were formed. So what you're going to do again, look at the picture on the left and then look on the picture on the right. The new countries, the ones that aren't on the left, write down just 3 of those countries. Okay? It's not that hard, guys. You just got to look on the map on the left and then look on the right and then what countries are on the right that weren't on the left. It's not that hard. Okay? A lot of people in class had so much problems with this, and I don't know why. You're just looking at a map and saying, wow, that country is here on this picture, but not here. It's not that hard. Okay? It's not that hard. So you should not be putting countries like United Kingdom, France, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Italy. Those countries are fine. They're basically the same. Okay? Look to the other side. Okay? So 3 countries, that's all you need. All right? So pause the video, look at that, and write them down because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. Oh, and one more thing. Just because they change color doesn't mean anything, okay? Doesn't mean anything because some students were like, oh, Portugal, Spain. Okay, they still have the same territory. They're both on both sides. We're not talking color. We're looking at what countries were there or not there, and also now they're there. 3 countries that are now there. Okay, not that hard. Okay, so France basically wanted revenge on Germany, and they got it with the Treaty of Versailles. They were really strict on enforcing those agreements. But the one thing that they were really, really, really pushing on were the reparations, which is repayment. In 1921, France demanded some reparation money, saying, hey, Germany, you got to start paying now. Okay? We need to fix and repair our country, and we're counting on that money of yours. Now, Germany owed 132 billion marks. Okay, marks is a name of the German money. Okay, now In today's money, that'd be equivalent to 33, not billion, it's trillion. That's a misprint. $1 trillion. So if you took that 132 billion marks and you put it into today's money, basically 33 trillion dollars. So it's quite a bit. So Germany's like, okay, fine. 1921, they start paying back their money. All right. But the problem is the following year, they stop. They just stop paying. Now, France is like, hey, where's our money? Germany tells them, we are in a financial crisis. We have no money. We can't pay you. If we could, we would, but we don't have any money. So France is like, no, 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 no. We're not accepting that. We want our money. And they want it one way or another. So they knew one of the agreements from the Treaty of Versailles was that Germany could not have an army. And one particular place is where Germany had a lot of mines, you know, people or places where they dug up for coal, for copper, gold, silver, things like that. And they also had factories in that area. And that was the Ruhr, R-U-H-R, Ruhr Valley. They were like, we're going to take that. We're going to take over that area. You owe us money. That place makes money, so we're taking it over. And they send troops over to the valley and take over it. Because they're like, we're getting our money one way or another. And we know this is a moneymaker for you, so we're taking it over. All right, so here's a little thing we're doing different than we've done before. You're going to have back-to-back questions, okay? So that little, what you see on your paper, that's not a misprint. We're going to have back-to-back questions. The first one says, do you think France had a right to invade the Ruhr Valley? What do you think? Germany does owe them money, but you think they have the right to just go and take over that territory? What do you think? So the writing prompts on the bottom, I think that France did or didn't, whichever you believe, have a right to invade the Ruhr Valley because, and explain why do you feel that way? Why do you say yes, they have a right to invade it, or why do you say no, they don't have a right to invade that area? Okay, so think about it, pause the video, write your response because we're moving on to the next question in 3, 2, 1. All right, so here is your next question. Do you think that Germany has more of an obligation to repay their debts first or take care of their people first? Now, if you don't know what the word obligation means, it's kind of like responsibility. So do you think Germany has more of a responsibility to pay their debts off first or to take care of their people? Now, I know it's easy to say, oh, well, both. Well, you're supposed to take care of both. No, 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 no. That's a cheater's way out. No, no, no. If you write that down, you're getting that marked off wrong. Okay? No. I'm asking you which or the other. If both sides need $10 to survive and the government only has $10, who would you say you should give the money to? The people or the country you owe money to? Okay? And then why do you say that? So the writing prompt, again, there's a new one on the bottom. I think that Germany has more of an obligation to pay their debt because la 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 la, or I think Germany has more of an obligation to take care of their people because la 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 la. Whatever you think. Okay, justify your thinking. Okay, and do not put I see both ways. Don't do that. You're gonna get it marked off wrong. Okay, I'm telling you right now. It's recorded. I'm telling you. So you can't say, "Oh, I didn't know." It's recorded. It's my fault you didn't listen. No, it's not. That's yours. So, I'm telling you right now, I better not read both. All right. So pause the video, write your response because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right. So here's the thing. It's one thing to actually take over a territory, and it's nothing to make the people there work. Okay. Because yes, France took over the valley, no problem. But the German factory owners, the factory workers, the miners, they were like, wait, France is taking over this? You know what? They dropped their stuff and they walked out. They're like, you want to do this? You want to dig for that gold, dig for that mining, dig for that coal, work those machines? Go for it. We're not doing it. And this ticked off France because they're like, what the heck? Come on. Now, thing is, Germany really wasn't lying. They weren't saying this stuff like, oh, we don't have any money, but really they were. No, they really had no money. They were in a financial crisis, a bad one. They had no money. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Back in the day, there's a thing called the gold standard, in which basically every country money was based off gold. So if your country had a lot of gold and you had, let's say, $10 million printed out in dollar bills, that money was very valuable. Okay. But the more paper money you make, the less value your dollar's worth. Because you're not putting any more gold in. The gold stays the same, but the dollar bills are just growing and growing and growing and growing. So the value of the dollar shrinks down. Okay. And that's exactly what happened with Germany. They only had a certain amount of gold, and they started printing out more and more money to pay off their workers, which again made the value of the dollar go really down. And because of this, it gave a major rise of inflation. And that's basically where the prices stay, the workers gets paid the same, but everything, the price of everything else rises. That's inflation. And they were already in an inflationary economy. So now with this printed money, it just got things worse. It's the stupidest thing that a country can do. Now, again, I know it's easier to say, oh, well, a country doesn't have money, print more money out. And again, honestly, that's the stupidest thing you could do. Like I gave an example in class. If Michael Jordan signed one basketball his entire life and he gave it to you, that basketball would be worth a lot of money, right? Now, if he signed everything, walls, park benches, your grandma's forehead, if he signed everything he came across, is that basketball going to be worth a lot of money? It's not. It's going to be worth nothing, except for a basketball, because again, he signed everything. So you can get a signature on anything. So that's what I mean. The value goes down the more of something there is. Now, before the war in 1914, $1 equaled 4 marks, which is not bad. Okay, that basically says that our money and their money were basically even. But by November 1923, $1 equaled 130 billion marks. Yeah, $1 equaled 130 billion German dollars. And less than a month later, $1 equals $4.2 trillion. Yeah, you heard that right. $1 equaled $4.2 trillion. Now it's easier to say, that's, you could just go over there and buy whatever. No. See that stack of money those kids have in that picture? All that money is basically worthless. You might as well be walking around with like pieces of trash and going like dumping it off on someone's lap, going, here, I owe you money. Here you go. Or they do it to you. Hey, I owe you $20, and they just dump a bunch of trash in your lap. There you go. That's $20 worth. You'd be like, get this trash out of here. No, give me something that's real. Yeah, exactly. People were just tossing that money. All that money right there, maybe they could have bought a loaf of bread. Maybe. All right. That's millions and millions and millions of dollars right there. Worthless. It's like trash. So yeah, money can be worthless. Okay, so basically now Germany is like telling France, "Hey, we got your money." France is like, "We don't want that trash. That money's worthless. Why would we, say you paid us with worthless money? No, we don't want it. You keep it." And Germany's like, "We don't want this. This is worthless." So they're kind of stuck now with all this worthless money. So in August 1924, a new reparation plan was created called the Dawes Plan. This was named after the chairman who was in charge of helping out Germany. He was an American banker, and he basically came up with this plan. Okay, the Dawes Plan works like this. So it works better if you look at the little diagram. The United States would lend money to Germany. Okay, and this is going to help them pick up their economy. Remember, one US dollar equaled $4.2 trillion. So what the Dawes Plan said is like, hey, we'll give you, Germany, loan you $200 million US dollars. Now that's going to make their dollar valuable. Okay. Now with that money, Germany is going to be paying France off. Give them some money, right? Now, with that happening, France is then going to pay back, war loans, and they're going to buy goods from the U.S. They're going to buy tables, chairs, cars, clothing, things like that. So the U.S. is making out like a bandit because not only is France buying stuff from them, but also Germany is going to have to pay back that $200 million loan. So yes, U.S. is making out like a bandit. And on top of that, there's an old saying in like the stock market when investors and people like that buy low, sell high. So like great example is like these little pot figures I have. You know, these little pot figures. Some of these, hey, I got it for $7, $8, and some of these are now worth like $60, $100, $120. Because I bought it when it first came out, and as time went on, they stopped making them, so now they're valuable. So, yeah, that's an old saying. So some Americans were like, "Oh man, these companies that are hurting really bad, they're selling their stock market shares really, really cheap. The property over there is really, really cheap." So some investors decided, "Hey, let's go over there, spend some of our money investing over there, and then as they pick themselves up, we'll be making money." Okay. So this Dawes Plan, it brought relief to Germany and to Europe. Um, Sad thing is, it only lasted 5 years because from 1924 to 1929, because something happens in 1929 that shakes up the whole world. Not just Europe, not just America, the whole world. Okay. All right, for question number 3, it's 2 parts. One, think of one reason why a country like the US should help out other countries in economic trouble. Okay, so why should we help out countries in economic trouble? And the same question, but in reverse. Think of one reason why we shouldn't help a country in economic trouble. So, one reason why we should, and one reason why we shouldn't help out a country who is economically hurting. Okay, there's the writing prompt on the bottom for both. I think one reason why the U.S. should help out a country in economic trouble or shouldn't is explain. This is important because, and explain, to explain why. All right. So pause the video, write your response because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right. So here is your exit ticket question. If the money in your country was basically worthless, would you still want to get paid in dollars? If so, Tell me why you would still choose that. If not, what would you want to be paid with instead? Okay, now I know it's easy to say, well, gold, silver, diamonds. Here's my question. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to? No. Because the thing is, you have to remember, if money is worthless, then chances are gold, silver, diamonds, platinum, all that stuff is going to be worthless as well. So, what do you want to get paid with? All right. What do you want to get paid with, and why did you choose that? So again, if you choose dollars, why did you choose dollars still? And if you say no, no, I want to get paid with something else, tell me what and explain. Okay. So once you finish with this exit ticket, you are done with this lesson. Hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Okay. So with that being said, you guys take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.